Hi, I'm Saida Garrett, co-writer of Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mr. Mark Tara.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the persons appearing on the program.
Today on Rainbow Country in Hour 1, I spotlight the award-winning independent radio show, Bumping Into Walls, a show geared towards the vision loss community. Joining me will be producer and co-host Anthony Hodgetts. And a flashback to my 2017 feature on the charity book Cuarenta y Nueve, or 49, honoring the victims of the 2016 Pulse nightclub shooting. Plus, Rainbow Country contributor, multimedia artist, Kat Grant talks about solutions for the wage gap between men and women visual artists. And in Hour 2, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, plus voices that you've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house. Stay tuned for Gay Talk Radio right here on Rainbow Country.
Hi, this is Emily Saliers from Indigo Girls.
Hey everyone, this is Chris Harder, porn star, burlesque performer, and the creator of Porn to Be a Star. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Rainbow Country, as I like to call it, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. And as always, I am your tour guide through Rainbow Country. I'm producer and host, Mark Tara. As you may or may not know, Rainbow Country originates from CIUT FM in Toronto, the sound of your city, and now proudly in syndication on 9 stations across Canada, including Bombshell Radio, Love Your Indie, a 24/7 streaming outlet, and Real Music, Real Ideas, Real People, CKUW FM in Winnipeg, The Juice, CJUC FM in Whitehorse, the mighty CKCU FM in Ottawa, the voice of the Haliburton Highlands, Canoe FM, Haliburton, Ontario's cottage country. Located in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, CFCR FM. Newfoundland's only alternative, CHMR FM, in St. John's, Newfoundland. And the latest station to carry Rainbow Country, proudly broadcasting to Kingston, Ontario since 1922, CFRC FM in Kingston. So whether you're listening in the Yukon, the prairies, Ontario's cottage country, Southern Ontario, even down to Buffalo, New York, the east coast of Canada in Newfoundland, or online, it's because of you tuning in, streaming, downloading, but ultimately listening, that has taken this little gay program and made it into a syndicated radio show and a #1 LGBT podcast. And last week, Rainbow Country was #2 on Podomatic's Gay and Lesbian chart. So today in Hour 1, Bumping Into Walls, an award-winning independent radio show heard monthly on CJSW FM in Calgary. The show is geared towards the vision loss community, and joining me from Bumping Into Walls is producer and co-host Anthony Hodgetts, who shares some of the ups and downs when it comes to producing this award-winning radio show. And a flashback to my 2017 feature on the charity book Cuarenta y Nueve, or 49, honoring the victims of the 2016 Pulse nightclub shooting that happened in Orlando, Florida. We'll hear from best-selling author Joey Lamar, who curated Cuarenta y Nueve. Plus, in Hour 2, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, plus voices that you've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house. But up first, Rainbow Country contributor, multimedia artist Kat Grant talks about solutions for the wage gap between men and women visual artists.
Hi everyone. Last time here I pointed out wage and representation disparities between men and women artists. So this pay gap, what can we do? It's surprising just how many people don't know how large the problem is. 47.6% large. According to an art study published by the University of Oxford, experts discovered that at auction, female artists are paid 47.6% less than male artists. The first ever Art Gap exhibition displayed a cheeky exposure of these shocking inequalities. Women artists with diverse backgrounds and work made beautiful paintings with 47.6% less picture with the rest of the canvas left bare. If you're only going to pay for about half, you should only get about half. Okay, wonderful. We're speaking up. There are solutions, so remove the bias. Instead of continuing the common practice of comparing women artists to other women artists to determine their value, compare women's art with all other artists with similar styles and on the same trajectories. There are well-known orchestras now who, when a musician is auditioning, the judges cannot see them. We need more institutions with role models and mentors for young women artists. Flexibility in the workplace would help. And seriously, what about more childcare options? It's never been more important to start learning how to better negotiate for ourselves and learn to ask for more. Work to enforce quotas. Nothing less than 50-50 is fair. Support pay transparency. Equal work, equal pay. We need to promote each other's abilities. Celebrate our sisters' accomplishments, value, buy, and invest in their art. Women have their own independent funds now. This is actually an historic time, one that could change the markets. The Hong Kong Art Basel Fair had a growth of women's artists rise so quickly last year, up by 5%. China notably is home to more than half the world's self-made female billionaires, and they are buying art. There are shifts in dynamics happening. There are more gallery directors hearing from art lovers who are starting to build a collection of women-only artists. For women artists out there, you could consider artist activist Michelle Pred's call to action. Raise the price of your own creative work by 15% right now, permanently, to help the persistent pay gap in the visual arts. To sum it up, here's a recent quote by Frances Morris, director of Tate Modern. My advice to women in arts today is that it is a changed world, but it is really still a case of pushing and making opportunities and never being complacent. I'm Kat Grant. Thanks for listening.
Bill 7, to ban discrimination in employment, government services, and housing, based on a person's sexual orientation, was up for a vote at Queen's Park. Most NDP and Liberal MPPs supported the bill, but without some progressive Conservative legislators' backing, a divisive split could rack the province. 4 PCs decided to break party ranks to vote with their conscience and support Bill 7. Cabinet Minister and MPP Dennis Timbrell did it to show solidarity for his beloved brother, the well-known drag queen Rusty Ryan. And for me, a gay politician who was not yet out, I had to take a stand. We were known as the Gang of Four. I'm former Cabinet Minister and MPP Phil Gillies. The date, December 2nd, 1986, when LGBT rights came to Ontario.
Hi, everybody. This is Gino Vanelli. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Up next, producer and co-host Anthony Hodgetts from the award-winning radio show Bumping Into Walls. Anthony Hodgetts, hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, man.
First of all, Anthony, thank you for being here, to have your voice, your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond, especially when it comes to your award-winning radio show, Bumping Into Walls, heard on CJSW-FM in Calgary. First question for you, Anthony, about your award-winning show, Bumping Into Walls. This radio show is about what?
It is about the vision loss community and their issues. I know that's a very vague answer.
It's succinct and right to the point.
That's how I am, though. How I am, man. You know.
And how long has the show been on the air for?
We've been on the air for 4 years. This is our 4th year. And to give you a little bit of understanding of the kind of guests we've had, when we first started, it was just 4 of us. Now there's only 3. But when we started, it was just us. We didn't know exactly where we were going to go with it. We just walked in and had some ideas. So the first 3 shows we did, one was on a pilot, telling people who we are. Then we did a show on cooking, because somebody had asked one of our team, Catherine, who is no longer with us, unfortunately, how she cooked. She was on transit, and that's how the cooking show happened. And then after about the first 3 shows, we realized we don't know everything, so let's bring in people. So we started bringing in guests, and we've had everybody from Donald Ray Johnson, who is a Grammy Award-winning blues musician, who's also been with Taste of Honey. I don't know if you're familiar with that group. Boogie Oogie Oogie was their big hit. Yeah, he's a cool cat, man. So he's been on our show twice. We did a segment with a person who had just gotten their guide dog. She's an older lady. We did a segment with her. We did a segment with parenting. We brought blind parents in, and we just let them tell us their stories. So we've done lots of different things. We're always coming up with new ideas. Like every couple months, new ideas flow through. It's only a half an hour, so it doesn't take long to go through.
So how many people are involved in the show? I know there's yourself and you have some other co-hosts. So who's all involved? We
have myself, Jesse Garthen, and Marie Rashawn, who is just new. She goes by Pinky because no one can pronounce Marianne. So there's 3 of us right now. We're still not certain if we're going to go with a 4th or not. I don't know yet. But originally there were 4. And like I said, Catherine passed away, and one of the other gentlemen has moved on to do other projects. So we're not sure what we're doing yet.
And how often is Bumping Into Walls? Does it air weekly?
No, we're not like you. We don't have all the gear in our house. I wish we did, because then we would go weekly. We go in. We do it once a month. So it's the first Tuesday of every month at 11:30 a.m. And it's also podcast. But do not be surprised, because you will only see 10 shows at the station side, because that's all they can host.
And does it airs on a certain time, but does it repeat at all?
Yes, it does. Yes, it repeats again at 8:30, the same day. So it runs twice that day.
Okay. And how did the show get started, Bumping Into Walls? Like, who started it?
Catherine, actually.
Okay.
We had thought of it because we were with a different show at the time, and we weren't fitting. So we all thought, what are we going to do? And Catherine said, well, you know what? There's nothing in this market for the blind. Let's try something. So that's exactly what we did. Our station manager at the time, program director at the time, said, all right, you guys gave me your protocol. We're good to go. You guys got to give me 4 shows before we can even give you a potential. So we put in 4 shows and got our first shot, and they aired, and then we had to make more. So we just kept making them.
So in 2018, Bumping Into Walls won the Breaking Barriers Award from the National Campus and Community Radio Association, the NCRA. Winning that award for your radio show, what does that mean to you, Anthony?
It means that over 100 program directors and station managers got to know who we were. Even if we didn't win the award, just getting nominated was like, okay, they know that we're good at what we do. Because for the station to put our show up, or any show at CJSW, it means they believe in what they're doing. But our station manager, Adam, does believe in what we're doing. So like I said, it was great to be nominated, but when we got told that we'd won, wow, we were shocked because we were just happy being nominated. So, because we fought against 100 other shows that were all spoken word. Might have been fighting against you too. I don't know.
I was never nominated for anything.
Oh, I thought you would have got one of those. Okay.
No, not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. Damn it.
Okay.
So how did you
find
out that you won? How did they tell you?
Our program director at the time had come back from the awards, and they'd sent an email out to everybody on the newsletter. That's how we found out. Was they'd sent a newsletter out, and I guess I was in the station the week before, and I had talked to the program director, and she said, "You guys aren't going to believe this." So it came back with a plaque, right? So she put the plaque right above our music director's office door, and that's where it's been ever since, along with every other plaque that we CJSW win, and there's lots of them up there. So I'm glad to be one of those. Even if we only win it once, that's great.
Hey, you're a winner.
That's right.
They can never take that away from you.
No, they can't.
The title, Bumping into Walls. How did that title come about? What's the story behind that?
Well, one day, we had all got up to the station except for Catherine. I don't know. She got lost because it was Bermuda Shorts Day. And there was a bunch of barricades all over the place. And, well, she kept bumping into these walls, which were, barricades, right? Like straight up walls. So she finally got upstairs, and we were tossing ideas around, and the name Blind Spot came out. Then she said, "What about bumping into walls?" And then she said, "Holy cow, that's got something." Because everybody, whether you're blind or disabled of some sort, is going to bump into a wall. Whatever it is. So that's where this name came from, and everybody that I've ever talked to loves the name because it doesn't say we're a blind show. It says check us out and you'll find out what we are. Look, Rainbow Country, I had no idea what that was. I figured it was the old Bob Marley track.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool.
I'll be right back. So Rainbow Country is now in its 5th season. And over the course of the past few years, I've had on some fascinating guests with powerful and inspiring projects. And they chose to come onto this little gay program to share those projects, to share them with us. So I thought I would spotlight some of those movies, music, books that I thought you just might be interested in. Ammonite, starring Oscar-winning actress Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan. A powerful lesbian film about acclaimed but overlooked fossil hunter Mary Anning. Set in 1840s England, a young woman is sent to convalesce by the sea and ends up developing an intense relationship with Mary Anning, altering both their lives forever. The film is Ammonite, from award-winning director Francis Lee. Here's something for all you book fans. Santander, Rambling on Borrowed Time, from gay author David Ellison. What if you should have died before you were even born? What if, since you knew you were living on borrowed time, you'd lived, taught, traveled, and wondered outrageously? 4.5 stars on Amazon.ca. And here's something for all you music fans. A new record from Gino Vanelli, 2019's Wilderness Road. 4.5 stars on Amazon.ca. You know his classics like I Just Want to Stop, Wild Horses, Black Cars. He's even been a guest on Rainbow Country. His new 2019 record is called Wilderness Road. Again, 4.5 stars on Amazon.ca.
My name is Charles Officer, and I'm the writer and director of Invisible Essence, The Little Prince. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
I want to use this opportunity, since I have you on the show, to talk about, to educate myself and maybe to educate some other, potentially someone that may be listening when it comes to the visually impaired community. So blindness. Is blindness a spectrum?
Yes, it is. You can go from having no sight to having just about enough sight to drive, to having shadows, to having seeing down a toilet paper tube. So there's probably others, but because I've never had any sight, I always look at it and say, well, having sight is amazing, but is it usable? So if all you can see is a blur, I wouldn't think that would be as usable as, say, toilet paper tube, or it all depends, right? Some people have glaucoma, which is a disease, and it will take their sight eventually. Diabetes is another one. So, I mean, and it's not just old people either. Anyone can become blind. Not catch it, become.
So, blindness and being legally blind, can you shed any light on that? Like, is there a difference?
Wow. Okay, that's a great question, but this is just going to be my interpretation of it. So legally blind means you can still see something, but you can't drive a car. So if you fall within the particular criteria that the CNIB has, you're legally blind. If you can drive a car, well, you're not. But if you can't, then you're legally blind. That's how I look at it. If that makes any sense, I like I said, that's just my limited understanding of it.
And when it comes to accessibility, what are some of your personal, like, your biggest pet peeves when it comes to getting around in your daily life, that sort of thing? What are some of the things that really irritate you, like ignorant people or something?
Yeah, you know what? One of the things that really gets me, and I have to make a joke of it, is the over there people. I call them that for a reason. So you're walking along, you go up to someone in a store, whatever it is. We'll just say a big box store. And instead of taking you to the thing, they say, oh, it's over there, as I'm pointing with my left hand in some vague direction. Normally I'm with somebody when I go to stuff like that because it just makes it easier. Or sometimes they will say, go to the blue door. Well, that works if you know what blue is. But if you've never seen it, now some people have seen blue, so it works, right? Or just messy people. So I've lived with folks over the years that leave their junk all over the place. And I can't imagine how they can live that way. For me, everything has a place. If I don't put something back in its own place, if you don't have a system, you're going to be living in the land of confusion for a good while.
Right.
It can be the simplest thing, like even putting something down. You know you put it down, so you literally have to search all over the floor because you forgot where you put it. If that makes any sense, right? You just think of a kid's room, think of a teenager's room full of stuff all over the floor. You're not going to walk in there if you can't see, are you?
Well, I would assume that you have to map out a room.
You would, yes.
Like ideally, I guess.
Yes, ideally, that would be the way to go. Right. Construction is my biggest bugaboo because you never know when it's going to happen. But, I mean, nothing is insurmountable. I mean, never be afraid to ask for help. That's my motto I've learned over the years.
And for yourself, do you use a cane? Do you use a guide dog?
I use a cane because I use a white cane because I'm allergic to the dog dander. But here in Calgary right now, it's minus 30-something with the wind chill. It's stupid cold. My buddy has a guide dog, and that dog has to go out 4 times a day. Whether it wants to or not, whether the owner wants to or not, it's got to go out there, rain or shine, snow or whatever. And that's just not something I personally want to do, but I've seen how it can help folks, and I'm down with that. It's great, but it just doesn't work for me, but that's okay. None of us on the team actually have a guide dog. For various reasons.
Right. Let's talk about technology when it comes to the visually impaired community. Let's talk about smartphones because that's so pervasive. Do you use a smartphone?
Yes, I do.
And first of all, are there smartphones that are geared towards visually impaired people?
I will say yes and no, and I'll explain why. The Apple phones have a program in them called VoiceOver, which even your phone has. Any Apple product has it, and even the other phones from, I can never remember the other guy's name. What are the other phones? Android. They have it, but it's not as advanced. Androids are better for folks who use large print still, whereas Apple seems to be ahead of the game right now. So, yes, I can. It's a big flat screen. So, if I want to do something, I'm gonna close this, start over because, well, okay. I'm in a thing called the app switcher. There's a button on some phones, and it's called a home button. Now, there's also a gesture that does the same thing. So, I'm going to close my apps down because I've got the phone open. So, I'm going to close it right now. You can hear that, right?
Close phone.
Yes. So then I double tap on the closed phone area. Now, messages is still open, but that's okay. So if we wanted to open up the phone app, it's on the bottom of my screen. So I've got messages, phone, and a couple of them I don't ever use. So those for the only two I usually use. So if I want to open my phone app, Safari, messages, phone. So then I tap twice on the phone app. Oh, I can't get this any closer. Yes, I can. So now it's open to the recents. So we're going to phone the weather office, but we've already done this, so we're gonna do this like I would normally do this. Sometimes if it's in your phone, you can do this. If not, you can talk to your phone, and it will dial it for you. You should also know how to dial, because if Siri, which is what does this, ever fails, you're done. If you're not in Wi-Fi or a place with data, you're hooped. So we're going to phone the weather office. Call 403-299-7878.
Calling 403-299-7878.
Now let's see if this is going to work, because it didn't work last time. There it is. Oh.
And so when you're
it didn't work.
So when you're touching the screen though on your phone,
I'm going to hang up on this. It didn't do what I thought it was going to do. Yeah, there we go.
I think we get the idea from hearing the voices and stuff. But when you're touching the screen on the phone, what are you feeling, or what are you hearing? Like, how do you know which way to go?
Okay.
Because it's a flat screen that you're touching.
Flat screen. So you'd need to learn where stuff is on the screen first. So, for example, you would have to explore your screen.
How did you do that originally?
I literally went through the whole screen, and I had a lot of help from friends who've done it before.
Okay.
And Apple has a lot of great resources as far as what to look for. So you can set up your screen in a certain way that works for you. And that's what I've done. I've taken the 4 things that I use the most, stuck them on the bottom, and we're good. I don't touch much else.
And there's nothing like, if you have like just a plain piece of glass, because that's essentially what you're touching.
That's what it is.
And you touch on a certain thing, you're not feeling like...
you're feeling glass. You're not feeling a button. You're feeling glass under your finger.
But at the same time, too, you're not feeling like a braille thing or something.
Flat. The only stimulus you have is the speech coming out of your speaker.
But sometimes when on a phone, like it'll vibrate when you touch something, right? Like haptics.
That actually has been expanded. In the newer phones, which unfortunately I have to get, they do that now. There's also a little device you can get that's about, I don't know, maybe 10 cells or 15 cells wide for Braille. So if you don't want people hearing what you're doing because they've taken the headphone jack out, you can go get one of these $7,000 gizmos or whatever they cost. They cost a bunch. They're not cheap. And you can hook it up to your phone, pair it to your phone. You can type a message and read it yourself. And then if you know Braille, of course, and then you could send it. So there's various things you can do with your phone that you wouldn't be able to do with just a regular old home phone.
Right. So let's talk about websites and the computer, because
that's what I normally use when I...
Okay. So because you brought something to my attention when it comes to my personal website in regards to my archives page, and there's something called SEO, search engine optimization. And it's on the back end where you can type in the description of something. And so it'll come up on certain reading devices, that sort of thing. And
if there's text, it'll read it.
And you had mentioned that for the titles for my previous episodes, like I had the same thing. So
it was Mark Tara, Mark Tara, Mark Tara. So no one knew what they were until you went and played with it.
And you brought that to my attention, and I was like, I have to change that. So I've started changing that now, and that's because of you. So thank you for that. But how easy, how difficult, is it challenging to read or access websites? Talk to me about that.
It can be, depending on what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Newspaper sites are strange because you got these ads in the middle. Now, before, you could never read what the ads were. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you're unlucky enough to be able to read the ads, which are kind of funny, but you literally... some sites, what you'll get is a CAPTCHA. Now, a CAPTCHA, I don't know what it stands for. It's got a special term, but it's basically, are you sure you're not a robot?
Yes.
So a lot of them used to be, and some of them still are, pictures. Take all the cars in this picture. Well, that ain't going to fly.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
So are you using a special device?
Yes. I'm using a regular computer with a screen reader called JAWS, Job Access with Speech, and it talks everything that comes out of my computer, but I still have to type into the computer like you would normally. And you can hear that going in, too.
And you use a regular keyboard?
Yes.
Okay. Because when did you learn to type?
I learned to type in grade 3 instead of handwriting.
Okay. And so you're comfortable with that, and it's not even Braille or anything.
No, but I learned Braille at the same time. We learned Braille in grade 1, and then we learned typing in grade 3. We were a class back in Edmonton. We were the first in Alberta to go to regular school. Before, they'd ship you off to your part of the world in Toronto, out in Brantford, or Vancouver. So either one, and my parents fought. A bunch of parents fought to get their children to go to school in their local neighborhoods. And they spent to send us to one school, and that's where we learned our stuff, and then we got integrated into regular classes.
Wow.
After that, grade 7, I think, was when they set us free.
And so accessing websites, you can do that.
Yeah, if the website has enough text on it that is readable. So if the links have labels that make sense. The worst one is click here. If I see that, I don't know what I'm clicking on. If I see the word button, it's a picture, but I don't know what the picture is. Just like with you had Mark Tara, Mark Tara, Mark Tara. So anyone wouldn't know what
Mark Tara
archives.
Mark Tara archives. Mark Tara
That's what I got. That's what I got.
Yeah. And now it says Mark Tara archives, and now the name of the episode.
Yeah.
And
but
so
people have to take the time to put that in.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't know they can do that or think to do it. So there's nothing.
But I think, too, a lot of us that do this sort of thing, because I do my own web updating and stuff, we don't necessarily get it. Because we're not necessarily told that, this is for, the visually impaired individual.
You are told when you go to school, if you're not self-taught, you are told. I think there's maybe a couple of hours in their training, in some of their training. It's an organization called the World Wide Web Consortium. Now, I've tried to figure them out, and it's so geeky it goes past me. But those are the folks that make the standards, and they're always changing for the better. But unless a designer looks and seeks that out, he won't just make it inaccessible for me. He'll make it inaccessible for many other disabled people of all types. So it's to their advantage because they're losing money and so are their customers.
So I want to talk about something when it comes to city planning, and that's the crosswalk lights and that tweeting sound or something. Is that a result of the visually impaired community, wanting that sort of thing?
Yes, actually. Toronto's ahead of us, although we're getting better. It started in America, and it was through the organizations down there that it came up here. Basically, they were very rare when I went to school. We were told, don't rely on them because you won't always have them at every spot, every crosswalk. Now, in this city at least, if a new place is being developed, those are being put in right when from the ground up. Whereas before they had to retrofit stuff and it cost them tons. So one direction would be tweet and one direction would be cuckoo. So if you were going, and I forget which it is, but one direction goes north-south, one direction goes east-west. So as long as you know which direction you have to listen for, as soon as you hear the sound that affiliates with your direction, you start crossing. And it's so much better than having someone come up to you and say, oh, you can cross now, but guess what? It's almost through the cycle. And they're just thinking you can run across the road, but that ain't going to happen.
I mean, it's a brilliant addition, but I never got it. I'll be really honest with you. I never got what that was about. I'm like, I don't understand this. So
basically, when the little hand goes up, that's when the tweet or the chirps will start. The only problem was back in the day, they never used to be tweets and chirps. They were the most annoying beeps in history, and so they were very loud. And so what was happening is, close to churches and things like that, they would literally turn them down. And they're still doing that here. About 6 o'clock at night, certain parts of the city, they turn them off, which to me is a danger. But that's, it does happen. So at night, because of people going everywhere, would you like it if someone suddenly said, oh, we're just going to turn off your lights for you?
Yeah.
That's what's happened here.
So let's get back to your award-winning radio show, Bumping Into Walls. You've been doing this now for, 4 years?
4 years, yeah. This is year 4.
What are some of the biggest challenges when it comes to doing the show? Like, talk to me about how you guys put it together, how you do the editing.
Basically, we use a program called Amadeus, and when we started, only one of us really knew how to make it and the Mac work. So we were learning on the fly. It took longer than I've ever seen to edit because it just did. Now I can do basic edits, but I'm still learning how to do the more fancy stuff, but that'll come, right? So for us, we take a show and we will start listening to it from the beginning. Like this particular piece, for example, I'd listen to the whole piece, then I'd go back through second pass after finding stuff that needs to go, start taking out the second pass. Usually we do about 3 passes. So if it's a 30-minute show, we've got 45 to an hour, it's going to take 3 hours to edit.
And so what are you doing? Are you like hitting certain keys on a keyboard?
Yes, everything on that program has a keyboard command, just like with when you use, for example, even Zoom here has a bunch of keyboard commands. I only know 4, but they have a bunch of keyboard commands for different things. So the same thing happens with this. So I would go to where I want to start cutting. I would highlight the area, and then I would cut it, and then I would listen to see what it sounds like with a command. And then I would say, okay, Ness, I want to cut that. So then I would cut it. So it's a little bit of a slower process, but that is why I think we won that Breaking Barriers award, because other shows have folks come in and do it for them. And we've had to do that when our software broke. And I can tell you, it's a great experience to be able to make your own decisions and make your own edits and not have to try and explain it to someone. Because if they weren't at the interview, they don't know. It's just longer.
Plus, you have control.
Yes, and that's something we never had when we worked with the other project, and now we have it.
Right.
And it's a great feeling, and I would never take that for granted.
Yeah. The best part about doing your show, Bumping Into Walls?
Best part for me is meeting all the people that we meet and having some of the interviews we've had. I mean, we had Donald Ray Johnson come in the studio, and he's with Taste of Honey. I don't know if you're familiar with that band.
Yeah. Yeah,
Taste of Honey, Boogie Oogie Oogie was their big
Boogie Woogie Woogie.
Yeah. Well, he lives here now. He's been doing blues for, he's in the business 45 years or something. And first time we had him through, I can speak for me, I was nervous as heck. Second time, I didn't care. Well, he had a surprise for us. He brought his Grammy with him from 1978.
Wow.
And they were competing against bands like the Cars and Joe Jackson and all these guys, Elvis Costello, all these guys. And it was just neat to feel a Grammy. They're big and heavy and don't ever drop it on your foot. But no one's going to get that experience to meet people that are doing amazing things that happen to be visually impaired. It's like, just because you're blind, your life isn't over. You just do things differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And meeting you is pretty awesome too.
Well, we've only ever spoken.
Yes, we have. You haven't flown out here yet.
Never met.
No, you haven't flown out here yet.
Yeah. So, talk to me about going back to yourself and your own personal experience. I'm going to ask you this question because it's based on a TV commercial that I see, which is a gentleman who's blind. He says, you know, I'm blind. I was born blind, I think he says. And he talks about sleep and how sleeping can be, he can be thrown off. He's
got non-24, right?
Maybe.
That's my guess. I don't know much about non-24, but I can tell you.
But the question is,
okay,
for yourself, like, do you sleep like 9 to 5 kind of thing, or do you get thrown off because of your circadian rhythm, or because of light, or the lack of light? That's
possible. Normally, I go by time. So if it's like 9, 10 o'clock at night, I just know that's bedtime. There have been times where I haven't slept well, but who has in COVID, right? But even before that, and I think that's part of it. But from what research I've done, as soon as you start taking some of these medications, they only last for so long and work for so long, and then you're hooped. So, like I said, some people I know are thrown off, and they're trying to get back on. I know people who sleep different patterns. They'll sleep in the daytime and stay up at night. Because to them, there's no difference.
Well, that's my point. That's what I'm trying to get at is you don't have the light and the dark.
No, I just go by time of day, right? So if it's 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, then I know it's time to go to sleep. If it's 7, 8 o'clock, I set my clock to make a cuckoo noise, and it wakes me up like a rooster. Then I know it's time to wake up.
Wow. And getting back to the show, your radio show, what do you hope listeners get from listening to Bumping Into Walls? What do you hope your audience gets when they hear it?
You know, I would think the best thing would be, don't think of us as blind. Think of us as just regular people who happen to be blind. And I guess same way. I mean, think of it this way. How would you like to be considered? Oh, we'll just say, I'll make an example. All right, you're an LGBT person, right? So instead of being Mark, I don't think you'd like to be, oh, that's that Mark guy and he's gay. Or he's gay and his name happens to be Mark. I just want to be Mark. Right? I just want to be me, right? And that's what I'm trying to let people know, that your blindness doesn't come before you as the person. But for some people, it does.
But here's the thing, and that's what I wanted to hopefully use this episode for, is to sort of educate myself and maybe some listeners, and not necessarily even educate, but hear your experience, hear your lived experience, because if I haven't lived something, I don't know what it's like. Just like for yourself. True. And if you have questions about sex and sexuality and that sort of thing, then when you come across someone that's, you know, different to you, it's like, hey, I have some questions for you. Do you mind? I mean, hopefully, you know, you get into a conversation and it happens naturally.
Yeah, it's not the first thing that comes up, but sometimes it is. So I get your point.
We're doing an interview, so I'm using this opportunity to ask you certain questions in terms of your lived experience. And so that's why I asked you the question, is because I'm wondering if maybe part of your show is to explain some of that lived experience.
Yes, it is. For example, the cooking show that we did, which was, God, we've done so many now, within the first 4 shows, that came about because people think we can't cook. And one of our hosts, Catherine, had brought it to the table, and I thought, why the heck not? We all thought it was a great idea. And it's like people seem to think that if you're blind, even looking for work right now, I'm looking for employment, and it's a lot of the same questions you've asked me, but they're not asking them to be mean. They're asking them because they don't know, right? So a lot of things, for example, weren't developed for the blind, but they come in real handy. Like, for example, the Amazon Echo, great tool, right? iPhone, great tool. I wish there'd be more we're going to be doing a show on employment coming up in the future here, and that's one of the things to let people know that we're not a liability. We're actually an asset to you and your company. Because people think, oh my God, what if he falls down the stairs going to the bathroom? And I hate to say that, but I've seen it. I've had people who just can't put their own heads around how they would do something, and they go, oh my God, if I can't do it, how can he do it? Is that making sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
I'm glad, because I try to be succinct. And
Well, Anthony Hodgetts, I have to say thank you so much for being on the show and for answering my questions and
Hey,
for,
you're welcome,
for tolerating my ignorance. Because
no
to
worries,
be honest,
man.
That's how we learn.
That's right. That is how we learn.
We have to talk to each other in a respectful way, and
that's right.
And take it from there and learn from each other. And congrats on your award. That's fantastic.
Thank you for that, actually.
That's
yeah.
fantastic.
We may win again. You never know, right?
Hey.
I always go in with that feeling saying, hey, we may win again. There might be some episode that might catch someone's attention. And so, yeah, if you guys are interested in getting the show out in your neighborhood, you just get a hold of CJSW and let them know that you want the show on one of your campus stations, by all means.
Thanks again for your time.
Hey, thanks, man.
To find out more about this award-winning radio show and to listen to past episodes, check out their website, bumpingintowalls.wordpress.com.
I'm Brian Bradley, author of Outrageous Misfits, female impersonator Craig Russell and his wife, Lori Russellidi. You are listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Terra.
On June 12th, 2016, 29-year-old Omar Mateen killed 49 people and wounded 53 more in a mass shooting inside Pulse, a gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida. In 2017, to mark the one-year anniversary, I caught up with best-selling author Joey Lamar at Glad Day Bookshop in Toronto for the book launch of Cuarenta y Nueve, or 49, a charity book honoring the victims of the Pulse nightclub shootings. Cuarenta y Nueve, 49, and the book was basically put together by Joey Lamar, who's joining me now. Joey Lamar, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about how you put this book, you brokered this book. Talk to me about that aspect.
Well, after the tragedy in Orlando, the Pulse tragedy, where we lost 49 victims, my original thought was to hunker down and write 49 poems to be able to relieve myself of everything that I was feeling.
Okay.
It affected everything that I am. I lived in Orlando for 10 years, so I was part of that community. I partied at Pulse.
So you've actually been to that nightclub?
Oh, many times.
Really?
Many, many times.
Okay.
It was my club of choice. I took my wife there on one of our first dates. I'm Puerto Rican, and the majority of the people killed were Puerto Rican because it was Latin night. And then I lost a friend amongst the 49 victims.
Really? So this hits home.
So it hit home on every level.
Right.
And so I thought to be able to kind of self-therapy, I'll write a book. I'll write poems for every single one of the victims. But when I started it, I realized it's going to drain me completely. And it's only going to be me. And I'm not the full LGBT community. I'm just L. So I reached out. I'm surrounded by so much talent here in Toronto. My friends are, they're amazing, right? They're writers and they're poets and they're artists and they're photographers and they're singers and it runs the gamut. And so I thought I'll just, put a little thought out there and see how they respond. And if they respond well, then, we can move forward with it. And it was overwhelming. I had much more than 49 people. I wanted to keep it to 49 artists for 49 victims. But the response was overwhelming. They're not just talented people here in the community. They are also very loving people. And it showed. They responded. Now, wrangling them for all of the contributions and everything, that's difficult. That's my job, but they are amazing with what they've contributed to the book. It's going to be magical.
So, the cover for the book has the images of the people that passed on, the 49 individuals.
Yeah, it actually has the cover itself has 49 candles, but we do include the pictures inside the book.
Okay.
Not on the cover.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So, how did you have to contact the families? How did that come about?
The publishers did that.
Okay. And who's the publisher for this?
We have two publishers. We have Dreams Publishing, who has been the power behind my novels and memoirs. And then they decided, since we have all of these artists coming out of Toronto, we should have a Toronto publishing company behind us as well, because Dreams is out of New York. And so they picked up Tellwell Talent as a cooperative force. And Tellwell Talent is usually for self-publishing, but together both publishing companies are pouring more than $15,000 into doing this for the victims. And all of the proceeds do not go to the publisher or any one of us. They actually go to two very important charities in the States that we hope will prevent this from happening again.
Right. And what charities are they, do you know?
The first one is Pride School Atlanta,
okay,
which is an LGBTQ++ school in Atlanta, the first of its kind. Its headmaster and the person who runs it and the founder is a transgender male who's just amazing. He was one of the first schools to put my books in their library and curriculum.
Real Mambo Lips and Salsa Hips?
Not Salsa Hips, because it's not for children, but
Mambo Lips?
Mambo Lips, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congrats on that.
Yeah. So, and I think what they do is so important. They support children from our community at a very young age and put them all the way through to high school. And so they send out kids from our community that are confident, that know who they are, that are authentic, and they're protected in this school environment too. There's no bullying, and just think about how healthy that is, right? So a lot of, I think, hate is fear-based, and you know, what happened in Orlando was definitely a hate crime. And I want to give back to the community through these children so that they come into the world not fearing the world and the hate and what they're going to face. They've gone through their schooling being very supported and confident and intelligent kids now, right?
Now, you're from America. You
I
live
am.
there. And you were just saying that you lived in Orlando. You've been to the Pulse nightclub. Did you ever foresee anything like this happening?
No.
In Orlando?
No. And Pulse, the club itself, is a very welcoming space. It wasn't just an LGBT club. A lot of straight people go to that club. Just, you know, people who are comfortable, who are allies. A lot of Latinos go. I mean, it's multicultural. It's a big, happy space, and it hit hard because of that. That's another reason that I needed to do something, because I've been there and I know what a jovial place it is, what a healthy place it is to party, like many of the clubs here in Toronto.
Just something random.
Yeah. These people wouldn't
Wow.
hurt a fly, right?
Wow.
No, you know, here's another thing people should really realize. Florida is a gun state, and you can carry a gun. Not one person, there were 49 victims and 53 injured survivors. Not one of those people was carrying a gun or retaliated. They had to wait for the police. That says a lot. You have over 100 people in a club not thinking about anything but being authentic and having a good time. And they had they had the ability to carry guns. It's a gun state, but that's not their style. We're people of love.
Right. So, Cuarenta y Nueve, what was your favorite aspect of putting this project together?
I think reading some of the works of the contributors, they're amazing. They're all depictions of love and light and kindness. And some of them are written about their own grief with the situation, but they're not morose. They're not dark. They're filled with hope, too. And something that was very sad has been the catalyst for people in this community to rise. And it's evident in those writings, in those pictures, in the artwork that some of the artists themselves contributed. These are people that are so used to coming out of the ashes that the book reflects that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was your favorite aspect?
That's my favorite aspect.
What was the hardest aspect?
It's still hard to deal with. It's only a year old. And so as I work with the publishers, who, by the way, every time they read something and they call me and they're putting something together, they cry. So, and I was saying it outside, I always have to tell them, you cannot call me and cry. This will be too difficult for us to put together. So I think because it's still fresh, because I still know the fear that because I visited that club and I partied in that club, I knew the exits. Okay. I knew how dark and scary it would be if something like that happened. And I still, to this day, and I'm sure it's some little form of PTSD, imagine the fear. And everybody knows they're going to die. That's a given, right? The minute we're born, we're dying. But nobody wants to go in that kind of fear.
Right.
Nobody wants to go in that kind of fear. That's horrific, right? And it was long. It was drawn out. It was hours and hours. People hid. My friend who passed away was there with her sons. Both of her sons were gay. And she passed away because she told her son to put her body on top of his. And this is documented. He's been interviewed. And, you have to think about how horrible that is. She was shot and killed. He was injured. The bullets came through her. But he didn't pass away. So she protected him, to her death, like any mother would, literally.
Wow.
Those things kind of haunt me. So that's still sad. But I feel really confident about what we're doing. I think it's a great homage and tribute to the people. And I hope that in perpetuity, it'll give to the two charities that we're giving all the proceeds to, and, leave a legacy for everybody who's contributed.
Joey Lamar, thanks for being on the show. Cuarenta y Nueve.
You say that very well.
Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
By the way, copies of Cuarenta y Nueve or 49 are still available at Amazon.com. Taking us to hour 2 of Rainbow Country. Victims. Culture Club.
Show my heart some devotion. Push aside those that whisper never. Feel like a child on a dark night, wishing we could spend it together. I could be warm with you smiling. Hold out your hand for a while. The victims, we know them so well, so well.
Hi, my name is Joanne Vanicola, and I'm an actor and a writer, and I was first on Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on discussing the massacre at Pulse Club in Orlando. I realized how important it was for our community to have a radio station, specifically for our issues, to talk about people in the LGBTQ community and to provide an outlet for our stories, to discuss our politics, culture, and give voice to the issues that matter to us, and of course our artists and the things that we do globally. And and talk about culture. And without people like Mark Tara providing a space for this with a radio show like this, then we wouldn't have that voice. So support, tune in. Thank you.
Hi, this is Police Constable Danielle Botno, also known as LGBT Cop, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
This is Hour 2 of Rainbow Country, where I feature music from LGBT artists, independent artists, plus voices that you've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house. So if you stay with me, if you stick with me, I hope you think I'm bringing you music worth hearing. Starting us off, a 3-song Canadian disco 80s set. We just heard Your Love. Before that, Unexpected Lovers. And starting off that 3-song Canadian disco 80s set, Babe, We're Gonna Love Tonight. Those 3 tracks from Lime, a Canadian disco duo from Montreal made up of husband and wife, Dennis and Denise LePage. In 1981, they released their debut album, Your Love. The title track went gold and became a #1 Billboard dance hit. And over the course of their career, Lime had 6 top 50 Billboard dance hits, out of which 2 went top 10 and 1 went to #1. Up next, a 3-song 80s set.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me present Frankie Goes to Hollywood, possibly the most important thing this side of the world.
Oh, yeah. Well, is my oyster.
We just heard Relax. Before that, Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. And starting off that 3-song 80s set, Two Tribes. Those 3 tracks from Frankie Goes to Hollywood, a band that was formed in Liverpool, England in the 1980s. And believe it or not, in 1983, their debut single, Relax, was banned by the BBC. Up next, a 3-song electronic set.
was a light. You couldn't see it. I was a light. All this time. You couldn't see it. I was a light. All this time. You couldn't see it. I was a light. All this time. You couldn't see it. I was a light. You couldn't see it. I was a light. All this time. You couldn't see it. I was a light. All this time. You couldn't see it. I was a light. All this time. You couldn't see it. I was a light. I've come a long way. I'm still breathing. I've come a long way. I'm still breathing. You couldn't see it. I was a light. All this time. You couldn't see it. I was a light. All this time. You couldn't see it. I was a light. All this time. You couldn't see it. I was a light.
We just heard Too Late. Before that, Path. And starting off that 3-song electronic set, Deeper. Those 3 tracks from Canadian electronic artist Roy DeVos off of his 2016 album, Dreamhouse. And by the way, if you liked what you heard, word is he's working on some new music. You can find Roy DeVos on SoundCloud as well as on Spotify. Up next, a 3-song Calypso set.
At a club the other day, I hear this music play. The people jump and break away, stand humanity. They had this crazy song, mashing the place down. The old timer say, it's long been around. Man, it was a bacchanal, just like a carnival. Everybody hands up in the air. And no lady know she shoot. She throw it the next one too. Jump up on the table and she declare.
Shack, 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 shack party.
What a bacana.
Shack, 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 shack party.
Come party with me.
Shack, 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 shack party.
I show you like free.
Shack, 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 shack party.
What a bacana.
Shack, 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 shack party. Shack, 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 shack party.
When the bandman play the tune and he beat bottle and spoon, give me surgery room with she partner. She tremble and she moan when she hear the saxophone. Make a move I can't condone when he blow it harder. Man is like in the island, the jamming to the band. Everybody do when they do. They form a conga line. Nobody's left behind. Come along, you're invited to
Shack, 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 shack party.
What a bacana.
Shack, 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 shack party.
Like a carnival.
Shack, 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 shack party.
Come party with me. Come on.
Shack, 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 shack party.
Party.
Shack, 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 shack party. Shack, 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 shack party.
Let the bacana.
Shack, 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 shack party.
What a carnival.
Shack, 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 shack party.
Party.
Shack, 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 shack party. Shack, 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 shack party.
While I'm waiting for this carnival, is to jump up with these criminals. I go arm myself with a big stick. Any man I meet in town that is relics. And I don't tell mommy already. Mommy do tie up your belly. Because it's murder, federation, war, and rebellion. Not they pass me by the junction. And I'm going down.
Must be pay, must be pay.
Yeah.
Beat up my equation.
Well, to show you I ain't for trouble. On the right hand is my steel knuckle. Me choker in my left pocket. And me punya on my jacket. And I jump in a black a while. I know they're bound to say that is old style. But you can beat me like a child. I'm taking licks with a smile. And I pelt it for like a while. And I'm going down.
Must be paid. Beat up my equation.
Consult me doctor to check me lungs and me liver. I done pay off me lawyer so he could pay off the undertaker. And as I have no mother or father, they could put me back to Grenada. Because I tell Mr. Charles I done pay in advance to bury me down in Grenans. And I'm going down.
Must be paid, must be paid. Beat up my because
I go show you. Lord Smokey. They never checked it seriously to know it was here since the 40s. First introduced to Canada by a trainee named Lord Calypso. Class in session, please pay attention. Listen to this teacher. Calypso.
We just heard Calypso History. Before that, Mastafe. And starting off that 3-song Calypso set, Shack Shack Party. Those 3 tracks from Roger Gibbs and Shack Shack. For all things Roger Gibbs and Shack Shack, you can find them on Facebook. Don't forget to keep up to date with all things country, Rainbow Country. Follow me on socials at Mark Tara Music. Do you have a guest suggestion, maybe a show idea? Send me an email because I want to hear about it. mark@marktara.com. The podcast for Rainbow Country is available on all major platforms. The official Rainbow Country playlist is out on Spotify. And of course, everything is hooked up at marktara.com. Finally, I want to take this time to thank you for taking your time to be with me. Remember, stay well, stay strong, stay safe.
Hi, this is Emily Saliers from Indigo Girls, and you're listening to Rainbow Country.